Welcome to Tita Talks. My name is Sonia Tita Puopolo, and I'm your host. Today, we're thrilled to welcome David Skinner from Ottawa, Canada. David is the president of the International Self-Care Foundation and a passionate advocate for self-care. Together, we will explore the healing power of wellness, a self-care tool for you, and we'll talk about the upcoming International Self-Care Day 2024. Welcome back to Tita Talks, David.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
We're so delighted that you've joined us again. This is our third time you're here with us. So excited to be talking about this year's International Self-Care Day. David, what inspired you to become the president of the International Self-Care Foundation? And what inspires you to continue promoting self-care?
Well, I think it's basically, I spent most of my adult life from the late 70s onward to be immersed in self-care from the standpoint of understanding better the value of what people can do, both preventatively and in response to minor ailments and other kinds of long-term health issues where they can self-manage most of their program. It became apparent to me early on that there's fantastic value both at the individual level, but also at the health systems level. And as health systems get overwhelmed with the shortages of personnel, it becomes even more important that self-care features in everybody's lives, as well as in that of the professionals, such as doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and so on, to integrate self-care into their daily practice so that we can become more literate in how we manage our day-to-day lives, both from the standpoint of physical health, mental health, and emotional health. And so since I've been doing it for many years now, the fire hasn't gone out because every year it seems like we need it even more. And there's an awful lot of emphasis at the systems levels and policy levels on things that basically require high levels of funding. Whereas self-care is something that can be done for very low levels of funding. Basically, most of the world's healthcare is delivered through self-care. And it's a matter of recognizing that role and that component of overall health within national policies that will help facilitate even better healthcare at the what we'll call very difficult to care for yourself illnesses, such as cancer and so on. And so the more that we can help prevent cancer, and by doing right things, that helps the system cope, but also it allows the resources to be applied to that kind of more serious intervention that only a physician or other healthcare professional can accomplish. So it becomes more relevant every day into everybody's lives as we get busier and as the system gets busier.
You know, the International Self-Care Foundation has developed the 7 pillars of self-care. Can you elaborate and can we talk about these pillars and their significance in promoting wellness and self-care practices and supporting the entire system of self-care of what you're talking about, how it's so important to focus on these preventative practices so that we can help improve overall well-being and health globally?
Yeah, the 7 pillars emerged over a number of years of discussion to try and, we basically took the whole universe of wellness aspects and saw there were some very common elements that fed into each other, and it kind of boiled down to 7.
Yes.
The first one being knowledge and health literacy, which is foundational to improving self-care practices. There's certain things that people can do almost inherently. And in fact, most everybody does some form of self-care every day without even realizing it, whether it's just brushing your teeth for good oral health, or whether it is managing minor, like we're in allergy season right now, and managing to avoid pollen whenever possible, making sure that you try and reduce the risk of getting congested and so on, utilizing products when you do get congested and utilizing them properly. People don't really necessarily think it's self-care, and some people, would say self-care is more about relaxation and so on, and that's all part of it, but it's not the totality of it. But the knowledge and literacy side of it will help people understand better all the options they have, when they can do things for themselves, when they should rely on others, and when they can work with others in the family or in the formal healthcare system to help manage, reduce risks and to manage ailments when they come along.
Yes.
Second pillar, the one that we're going to focus on mostly this year, is mental well-being.
Mm.
So this is, again, where systems look at interventions at the extreme end, when you're clinically depressed and those kinds of situations, which are not really too amenable to self-care, but self-care can help manage an awful lot before it gets to that point. Trying to maintain kind of a level wellness within terms of mental health helps avoid progression to the deeper states such as depression and so on. Third pillar is physical activity. We're all very much aware of that. I spend most of my time telling people you don't have to run marathons. You don't
Exactly.
have to do, extreme sports to be physically active. It's, sitting in a chair is one of the worst things for you, but just getting up every half hour, walking around a bit, that improves, your physical well-being immensely. And so, and you'll find throughout all of the 7 pillars, moderation will be the key. So moderate exercise pays huge benefits. Doing something you enjoy when you're doing physical activity, that makes time go by so quickly, and it makes it a lot easier. The fourth pillar is healthy eating. I think in today's society, there's a fairly high awareness of the need to eat properly, eat healthy. But I don't know whether there's an awful lot of in-depth awareness of what good nutrition means versus fad nutrition.
Absolutely.
And so we have a lot of emphasis on making sure that you get right amounts of vitamins, minerals, there's other kinds of nutrients, as well as watching cholesterol levels, fat, salt, and so on. I think most people are fully aware of the need for it, but maybe are not too aware of how something small, like just reducing salt intake by a little bit, again, in moderation, everything is fine.
Right.
And that pays off good for cardiovascular benefits. So healthy eating, I think some of the old wisdom was, healthy food is medicine.
Yes, the Hippocrates.
And then we have the fifth pillar, which is risk reduction. So this encompasses a lot of things that were in healthy eating and moderate exercise, is reducing the risk of progressive illness. So making sure that you don't go from cholesterol levels that are moderately high to plaque formation to heart disease.
Right.
What kinds of actions do you take to try and lower those risks? And of course, risk reduction also includes stop smoking.
Right.
Stop doing things that actually we know are harmful to you. And so those kinds of things, along with, wearing a helmet when you bike and all those simple day-to-day risk reduction strategies have huge impacts on overall health. Good hygiene. Well, we came out of COVID with a more acute awareness of the necessity to, wash your hands, sanitize, make sure that you're minimizing the spread of pathogens through contact and surfaces and so on. So hygiene pays off big, and it's oral hygiene, it's hand hygiene. They all can help stop the spread of communicable diseases.
Yes.
And while things like cardiovascular health and so on are often categorized in the non-communicable disease category, which is quite frankly 2 out of the top 3 harm the most people in the world, and can all be basically either eliminated or lowered risk if people took the time to do something to get that physical activity up, their healthy eating up, and the risk reduction. But when the hygiene side It's really about communicable diseases and how you can lower your risk for that. And the last one is the responsible use of medicines and services. So when you are in a position where you need to use a product for self-care or something that is prescribed to you, or the use of some services that are there to help you manage your illness is, and this links back, of course, in full circle to pillar one, which is self-care literacy, knowing exactly how to use these products as directed responsibly. Don't overuse. Again, moderation is the key. Those are all the 7 pillars, and they combine to make one big picture of how you can operate. Like even if you pick one per day, there's happy coincidence that there's 7 days in the week, and focus on one per day.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's wonderful. Step by step. And also people can get this information from your app as well.
And the good thing about the Foundation's app, as well as our social media platforms,
Yes.
is there's at least 5 or 6 times a week where something new is posted there
Oh, it's wonderful.
relative to one of the pillars.
Love.
But our whole basis is to try and build an evidence-based foundation for each of these pillars. So typically what you'll see in a social media blast would be something about, say, nutrition, how to avoid upset stomach was, I think, one that came out today.
Okay.
Today is World Asthma Day, so something how to avoid risks of pollen and things like that and what to do. And it'll refer back either to a knowledgeable source like an asthma society or a paper that was written that recently was published. So there'll always be some evidence-based backup to the daily structure.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, International Self-Care Day is an important event celebrated annually. How will the International Self-Care Foundation be supporting healthy lifestyle programs around the world for this year's International Self-Care Day 2024? I know you mentioned mental well-being and the importance of mental health.
So there are a couple of things. We focus most of our attention on July 24th, which is 7/24. The
Yes,
reason, of course, I think we've talked about this before, but the reason
I
it was
love,
chosen is
yes,
self-care is a 24/7 activity. So why not celebrate it on 24/7 or
I,
7/24?
yes, I love
Um,
that.
and the good news about that is that the WHO adopted this notion as well, and created a self-care month, which starts,
It's,
the month before.
yes,
So
yes,
from June 24, July 24.
yes.
And quite frankly, there's a breadth of kinds of topics that are covered during the month.
Okay,
For the foundation, our focus for this year's self-care day is
yes.
going to be on mental well-being, which is the second pillar. We published a paper last year on knowledge and self-care literacy because that was our focus last year. We'll be publishing another paper on mental wellness. It'll come out in time for self-care day. But through that kind of the week before leading up to International Self-Care Day, try and focus on each of the pillars, culminating in a focus on this year, the wellness, mental wellness.
Right.
And it, in my ideal world, you have countries focus on the international one and then have their own national one in addition to that.
Right, right.
So that kind of leads me into International Self-Care Day, of course, is in July,
Yes.
but fall there's Self-Care Week, which is
Okay.
principally practiced in the UK, but it's spread worldwide. It's not just for the UK, but there it started in the United Kingdom. It was the NHS that started with the Self-Care um, uh, Foundation,
Yes.
the self-care forum, sorry, in the UK, of the self-care week. And that one celebrates broadly.
Okay.
And so the self-care forum also is out there promoting, so they were doing a lot on mental health recently as well.
Okay, wonderful. So will there be, for this year, for the International Self-Care Foundation, will there be something specific for on that day that will be celebrated worldwide. It will be the launch of the white paper that you said, right?
Yes, the
Launch-
white paper will come out then.
It's
I think
wonderful.
that you'll find that there are various, over the years, it's grown quite a bit.
Yes,
Various organizations who tie their messaging around self-care to Self-Care Day. So
yes,
uh, in China, there we have a self-care foundation branch there, and they always do a fairly large set of meetings with healthcare professionals and teach people more about, self-care and what they can do and where the resources are. Europe has a number of different initiatives that are based in Geneva through the Global Self-Care Federation. They follow along. And a number of organizations around the world are now picking up on the Self-Care Day
yes,
theme, including universities. And Australia has a fairly strong academic program around self-care and wellness that it is designed to drive the evidence base for it.
yes.
So yeah, it's grown quite well in the last 10 years. And I don't see anything that would stop it from growing even further.
Oh, absolutely. It's I also love that. Let us remember self-care 24/7.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
celebrated on special days,
yeah.
24/7. Let's delve into the manifesto for
The
self-care.
manifesto is something that was designed a number of years ago. The principles there are to try and encourage, from the Self-Care Foundation standpoint, the self-carer. We focus on the self-carer, which is
Yeah.
you, me, and what we can do. But
Mm.
the manifesto includes the need for governments and policymakers and institutions to also pay attention to self-care and what it can do to contribute to the wellness of their systems, et cetera, et cetera. And so people look at different kinds of policies and enabling technologies. If somebody is considering promoting, say, one of the seven pillars, let's take physical activity as an example,
Yes,
um, that they do so in a kind of a holistic way. They look at the physical activity as something to focus on within the context of the broader set of self-care initiatives that can be accomplished. Because if you're firing on all seven cylinders, so to speak, then
yes,
you're maximizing your opportunity for risk reduction and harm reduction and staying healthy and living a productive and long life.
yes.
Uh, so the institutions that we deal with, need to incorporate a macro self-care aspect to it.
Mm.
So while we focus on the self-carer and the
Yes,
evidence base for self-care, the
yes.
policy aspect and how institutions deal with self-care and promotion of their outcomes, that's part of the manifesto is basically to try and build into everybody's thinking.
It's wonderful. And that can also help prevent so many, like, burnout and just so many things that can happen when you're not practicing self-care. No?
Yeah, and that kind of really leads nicely into why the foundation is focusing on mental wellness this year.
Yes, tell us why.
So it's a very opportune time coming, first of all, out of COVID.
Yes,
The anxiety levels that existed during COVID were extremely high. And rightfully so. People were worried about what is this? There was not a lot of knowledge base. What do we do? How do we care for ourselves? And quite frankly, through the core of it,
yes,
that what I was talking about is hygiene, was a massive self-care action.
yes,
And while a lot of governments were promoting, social distancing, mask wearing, hand sanitizing, washing, they never referred to it as self-care. They just said, do these things. They're good public health measures. And indeed they are, but they're also self-care.
completely.
And as we came out of that, the anxiety levels you would hope would reduce. However, they didn't. People still worried, and there's ever changing kind of things that are going on in the world that affect people's health. And so we got to the point where, well, maybe it's timely that the second pillar being mental wellness, that we start to focus a bit more on how do you manage your day-to-day mental well-being so
Yeah,
that you don't get into a crisis situation. How do you speak to friends and family? How do you have that open communications? And
yeah,
so the timing was right from the standpoint of, never has there been more of a need for it. And two, the timing was right in that it fit nicely into the second pillar and therefore this year's objectives.
yes,
But I think that quite frankly, the biggest thing for us was try and get a recognition that before the mental health community, and I
yeah,
mean from the health professional side,
yes,
end up having to deal with cases that have progressed significantly from minor anxiety to depression.
right,
That there are tools available and awareness at all levels, the self-care level and the professional levels and the intermediary groups. That there are things that you can do just on your day-to-day life. There's some stress release stuff. And these are like conscious awareness that you need to take a break. You need to talk to people when you end up with a situation that you're maybe not being feel up to coping with.
yes, yes. The philosophy is that true self-care also relies on not only your seven pillars, but also our four pillars of a healthy lifestyle: exercise, nutrition, rest, healing, and mindfulness meditation. And this is our formula for health, happiness, and longevity. This can help when these four pillars are in alignment. You can create that balance that you're talking about, that harmony, that equilibrium. I would like to know, what are you doing now for your wellness routine and self-care tools? What do you find personally works for you most beneficial today? Because we've talked about this before. Have you tweaked your wellness and self-care routine?
Well, the good part about it, and this goes back to the mental well-being, is that there's always an interconnectedness between the seven pillars.
Absolutely.
So one of the things that helps manage stress is physical activity. So getting out, get some fresh air, do some things. And again, I'm not saying, do a triathlon or anything like
Yes,
that. It's
exactly.
saying get out, take a walk with some friends, do things that just, break the routine, give you some physical activity. It's great for the joints, it's good for circulation, and it actually is great for mental well-being.
Yes.
And so what do I do? And have I changed my pattern?
Yes.
Not really. My pattern is pretty much still the same. I do my daily routines in terms of,
Right.
like I said earlier, you get up and you brush your teeth, you make sure that you take care of your skin, take care of your oral hygiene, wash your hands, do all those kinds of things. Um, have a good breakfast. Look for something balanced, not too sugar laden. Uh, make sure that you time your meals well and don't eat too late. But again, I also don't like to eat too early. I might be part hobbit in some ways, having breakfast, second breakfast, elevensies, and so on.
Right.
But there is a good kind of people choose maybe smaller meals more frequently. For me, I'm a 3 meal a day kind of guy,
Right.
but I'm a bit conscious about what I eat at those meals.
Right.
Um, Again, the physical activity, if you can find an activity that gets you out and about and you enjoy it. So whether for me it's golf, I get put in
Oh,
20,000 steps a day easy
wonderful.
doing that, and it doesn't seem like a labor.
Huh?
Uh, Pickleball, a few other things that just
It's
they if your mind is not on exercise and it's on the enjoyment of the sport or the enjoyment of the
yes.
activity, then it seems like you're not even really doing it. And so that's
Uh,
for me a lot of the things that I focus on. When it comes to mental health, I'm a bit fortunate in that I have a great partner who, always is prepared to listen, and I listen to them too. So, whenever she feels a little bit down, I'm happy to help out. And I think that those frequent conversations are better than waiting and unloading.
Yeah,
So that's kind of how I manage it. The responsible use of meds, and always follow the directions, do that kind of thing. Use them when I need to, don't use them when I don't have to. And
yes,
and I do supplement a bit because just some of the things that I look for in terms of vitamin D, B12, and magnesium would be a few things that I supplement with,
yeah,
all with a specific endpoint in mind. And so that I think that probably practicing my health self-care literacy allows me to make some informed choices about what I use to supplement with. And not everybody has the same situation in terms of their, let's say, food allergies that prevent them from getting enough calcium or something like that.
yes,
So everybody's a bit unique. And quite frankly, I'm lucky. I don't have the only thing I'm allergic to food wise is
yes,
lobster.
oh, yeah.
So I miss lobster, I guess. But other than that, I'm lucky. But some other people can't do dairy or whatever. But so
Yes, yeah.
I try to practice the seven pillars. Sometimes there's a bit more emphasis on one or another, but that's based on the situation that life throws at me.
Yes, and I think that's part of the learning process. I think that it's a practice, right? Self-care is, I feel, a practice where as you go, you can just see what works best for you. So if
Yeah,
running is going to be hard on your knees and you have knees that you shouldn't be running, just going for a stroll or a walk in nature
or
for a
swim.
set or swim. Exactly. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you're right. The more you practice it consciously, the more it
yes,
becomes unconscious, if you will. It becomes second nature, and you don't. Then you say to somebody, "What are you doing for self-care?" They say, "Oh, I haven't even thought about it." Well, now that I think about it, yes, I do this, this, and this, but I do them every day, and it's just second nature.
how would you describe the relationship between emotional intelligence, self-care, and the impact on one's own well-being?
Well, I think one of the biggest thing about emotional intelligence is self-awareness. And that would be the number one thing that I think pays benefits. Being self-aware not only of where you feel you need to augment some of your self-care activities,
Right,
awareness of knowing what you know and what you don't know,
right,
not being afraid to go out and find out more. In this day and age with AI and all kinds of web-based information, it's tough to sort out the good from the bad.
yes,
And so trying to find a trusted intermediary that can help with good information, that's a critical part of self-care thinking. It is the first pillar. It's not just get information, it's getting good knowledge.
yeah, and the right information. Yes, for
Yeah.
you, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'd say, when it comes to emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
that whole self-awareness aspect is the most critical part of it.
And what is the key message that you wish to convey today to our global audience regarding self-care and your initiative towards mental well-being for this year?
Yeah, again, the theme is it says everything, it's 24/7. It's just get out there and pay attention to it. This year being mental well-being is my hope is that more people pay attention to the kinds of things that they can do to help cope with the stresses of daily life and maintain a positive attitude and positive well-being. The better it will be for your partners, for yourself, and for others that are affected similarly. Share the news.
Well, I just love that. I love that, David, because it is so important to not underestimate, if you're stressed or you're feeling anxiety, to not underestimate that and to be mindful and to find that, the people around you support yourself, be mindful of the people that one has around them, to make sure that they have supportive, loving, kind people, right? And to be good to themselves. I think that's what self-care is all about.
Yeah.
So I thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on Tita Talks. And we look forward to celebrating this year's upcoming International Self Care 2024 with our global community. For more information, please go to www.wellnessworldusa.com or www.titatalks.com and follow us on Instagram at Sonia Tita Puopolo, at Wellness World USA, and at Tita Talks Official and at We Love Tita Talks. And to learn more about the International Self-Care Foundation, please visit www.isfglobal.org. From the website, you can find all of the links to the International Self-Care Foundation's ISF. All the links are available on their website, to their Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn pages, and you can download their app, which is really, really beneficial. And I hope the app can be supportive on everyone's self-care journey.